What's going on, y'all? How's everybody been doing? How's everybody been doing? So we're gonna talk about some of the perks of running wild or running system. And since I'm gonna speak on the company, let me just go ahead and say I am not a spokesperson. I'm not a spokesperson for Southeastern. I'm just a driver stating my own views and opinions. So for the people that are new to the channel, not really familiar with Southeastern, we have, the scheduled side, and then you have your wild side. Now I'm going to speak on if you're a 2.5 for the new people is, where you lay down twice a week and you'll either fast turn on Friday or you'll fast turn to Monday, depending on if you're on A side or B side. We have, 3-2 wild, again, for the new people joining. 3-2 wild is when you work 6 days on your long week, 4 days on your short week. Basically, lay down 3 days, lay down 2 days. And then, of course, you have system, which is what I am, where you're out either Sunday to Thursday if you're on the A side, or Monday to Friday if you're on the B side. So let's talk about it. And of course, if you want to throw it in the mix, you have your wild teams. But I will say there are some perks to, running wild. Of course, it has its disadvantages, and I might, talk about some of the disadvantages, maybe. But some of the perks that you have is you're a little more flexible, If you're a 2.5, you can essentially run a 2.5 as a system, meaning, and by the way, Central, they're pretty flexible, so if you want to stay out, they will let you, and that's assuming they have the free volume. So again, if you're a 2.5, and I've done that, if you're 2.5, you can pretty much say, hey, I want to stay out all week, and 9 times out of 10, Central will allow you to do that. The same if you're a 3-2. I know a few guys that run 3-2 wild, and they run it again as a system. So one of the perks that I would say is, you get more freedom, Obviously you're gonna go to more places versus a person that's scheduled. Of course, if you're scheduled, you're just gonna, pretty much follow your schedule. As far as like the home time, as I said, regardless, you're either gonna be on the A side or the B side. But let's just say you need to fast turn for whatever reason. Being wild, you have that. You could say, let your terminal manager know, or I'm sorry, you could let your dispatcher know or let Central know, like, hey, I have something going on. I know this is my day to lay out, but I need a fast turn. And 9 times out of 10, Central will, accommodate that. The same if you're a 3-2. On the flip side of that, if you say, hey, I want to stay out, even though this is my day to go home, again, 9 times out of 10, they'll allow you. Now, let's talk about if you're a system driver, which is what I am. In my case, once I leave Orlando Monday, I usually won't see Orlando. Usually I won't even see Florida until it's my day to go home. Now, because I run out of Orlando but live in Tampa, a lot of times Central, they will look out for me. And, sometimes within the week, they might route me to Tampa. Sometimes it happens that way where, I'm able to, go home. Or sometimes if I let them know, like, hey, I have an appointment, I need to be back home. A lot of times they'll allow me to do that. Or there's been times when I'm not really able to stay out like I'm supposed to. I might have something going on back at home. There was a time where I said, like, hey, I need a fast turn all this week. And, they let me. Or I told them I need to run the A schedule, so they allowed me to, fast turn Monday, and, I stayed out on Tuesday, Thursday, Another perk is sometimes, if they have the freight, you can stay out, over the weekend. It's not often that I do that, but sometimes I will stay out an additional week. Now, usually the only time I'll do that is if my miles are kind of low, if I'm not at the mark that I want to hit. Like ideally, I want to hit at least 2,500 miles per week. Now, of course, I don't have a say in, where I go and how many miles I get. I'm at the mercy of Central in that sense. Freight volume has picked up, my miles have gone up, and one thing about me is I love running west. I love being able to go out to Texas or Oklahoma. That's where I'm able to get my miles, especially Texas. I'm sure you guys saw on the community tab, I was in Laredo. That was probably 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. I got the chance to go out to Laredo. I got the chance to go to McAllen, Corpus Christi, San Antonio. Now granted, out there, you're gonna get more miles versus if you run east. Now, the only reason why that is because obviously Texas, the terminals are spread out more versus all the east. You might hit 6 terminals and only run maybe 400 miles, especially if you get stuck in the Carolinas. We call that, the Carolina shuffle. You have so many terminals, like even like Charlotte, for example, we have 3 terminals in Charlotte. The same with, the Atlanta area. We have 4 terminals in the Atlanta area. Another perk of running wild is sometimes you might cover a scheduled run. Now, in my case, it's rare that it happens, because in my turn, we only have 4 vacation drivers. So like, let's just say they have more drivers off than they have. There have been a few times where, they've asked me, can I cover a 2.5 schedule? And I think once I covered a fast turn schedule. So, this opens up more flexibility. Another thing too is sometimes, and it's like 50-50 if this will work. Like I can ask, if they can route me to this particular turn. Like for example, my dad, he lives in the Atlanta area. He lives near our North Atlanta terminal. So sometimes, like if I get sent up to Atlanta, I have that flexibility where I'm able to ask them like, hey, can I route me to North Atlanta and end me there? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. But then again, I have that flexibility versus if I was scheduled, I gotta pretty much follow the schedule. And of course, some of the disadvantages of running wild is, not knowing where you're going. That could be a con for some people, but that doesn't really bother me. And of course, the biggest disadvantage is the hotel situation. Sometimes having a hard time finding a hotel. But those are just some of the perks, some of my personal perks. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. So as I always tell y'all, thank you to all my day 1 subscribers. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I appreciate all y'all. And as I always tell y'all, y'all take it easy. Y'all stay safe.